6:37 on WMAL. Good Wednesday morning to you. Brian Neiman, Tori Clark in for Brian Wilson today. Brian will be back on Monday. So big news in the political world yesterday. Rick Santorum got out of the race before the Pennsylvania primary. Why did he get out, and what does this mean moving forward? Alice Stewart joins us now, National Press Secretary for Rick Santorum. Good morning, Alice. Thanks for coming on. So I know that he met with some conservatives over the weekend. I know he had some time to spend with his family. Why did Rick Santorum decide to get out of the race?
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to come on, Brian. There were a lot of factors that went into this decision, not the least of which is I'm sure you're aware that his daughter Bella had been in the hospital and she's been sick, and they had taken her there over the weekend, and that was a factor. I mean, his faith and family have always come first, and he felt as though this was the time to focus on his daughter and his family, and that was a factor. But also, we have been looking at the delegate mass for quite some time and crunching the numbers, and a lot of factors had to fall into place in order for us to reach the desired number of delegates, whether prior to the convention or on the convention floor. And as things played out, the numbers weren't looking as favorable as they had weeks ago. That was also a factor. But he also realized now is the time for conservatives to coalesce and work together and do what we can to defeat Barack Obama, and those were the main factors that went into this decision.
Did he get any calls recently from Republicans, whether they be in office right now or behind the scenes, telling him, hey, it's time to get out?
Ryan, he's been getting those calls for quite some time. He was the person that the establishment never stood behind. He was the person that was the underdog from day one, with less money and resources than any of the other candidates, but proved that it's not about having the money, it's about having the right message and the right messenger. And so he silenced those voices in his head a long time ago, but as I said, as time moved on and the campaign moved forward, he just felt now was the time to do what he could to unite conservatives and rally behind the nominee and work to fight the Obama administration, but also more than anything to also work to elect Republicans down ballot,
right.
And that's important. Not just defeating Barack Obama, but to elect Republicans in Congress.
But did those calls have any effect on his decision yesterday? And was there anyone in particular that called him that had made a impact on his decision to get out yesterday?
Brian, he got out of this race the same way he got in, by sitting around the kitchen table with his wife and children, and they thought about it and prayed about it and looked at all the options, and that's really where the motivating factor in the voices that he listened to in terms of making this decision. So it wasn't any one particular person or a cry of voices from the Republican Party or conservatives. It was he at the end of the day, along with his family, and after a lot of thought and prayer, that's what led him to this decision.
Hey, Alice, this is Tori Clark here, and thanks for being with us this morning. If I were in your shoes, I might have wanted to take a little time off and, reconnected with my family, those sorts of things. But looking ahead, how much time and effort will Santorum put into uniting conservatives, the really conservative members of the Republican Party, behind Romney? That could be very, very helpful to Romney. If Romney could spend a lot of his time and energy now focused on President Obama, then Santorum could help a lot with that right flank. Do you see that happening in the weeks and months ahead?
Well, we sure do, Tori, and it's great to speak with you. He had a nice conversation with Governor Romney yesterday. They are good friends, I guess you can say. Of course, they're political adversaries over the past several months, but they have a good rapport. He committed to Governor Romney to do what he could to help, and a large part of that is coalescing the conservative voice, not just social conservatives, but fiscal conservatives as well, and he'll do what he can to rally that voice and stand behind Governor Romney, who's obviously the nominee here. That's going to be important. Romney's done a great job. Clearly, he has the most number of popular votes, the most number of delegates, and is on his way to the magic number 1144, the required delegates needed. And he's earned that spot. He's earned the position he's in now. And what Rick's going to do is help him to continue to coalesce Republicans and conservatives, because we're going to have a difficult and uphill fight going into November. The Obama re-election campaign and the power of the incumbency is going to be a difficult challenger, and so it's going to be incumbent upon conservatives to work together in order to take on Barack Obama. But as I said, it's the presidency that's critical that we take back that seat, but also, it's critical to have Republicans in the House and Senate. As we've seen, obviously, with Obamacare, we can't have the voice of the people taken away. So we need to restore that voice by electing Republicans in Congress.
He didn't mention Mitt Romney yesterday in his speech, but the way it sounds to you this morning from what I read is that there will be a full-throated endorsement of Mitt Romney sometime down the road. Is that right?
He will certainly work to help Governor Romney in any way he needs. There was no intentional slight of the governor by not mentioning him by name. Rick doesn't work on prepared speeches or text. He was speaking from the heart yesterday, and he had a emotional weekend and difficult day yesterday, and there was no intentional oversight on his part by any stretch of the imagination. And as I said, they had a nice conversation yesterday morning. They plan to talk in the next days to come, and Rick will do whatever he can, because job number one is uniting the Republican Party, shoring up the conservative vote, but also reeling in independents, and defeating Barack Obama.
Look, this was an unbelievable run. I mean, Rick Santorum, nobody gave him a shot at this at all 6 months ago, and he was on the far left-hand side during the debates in the beginning, and didn't even get could barely get even questions asked of him during the debate. So it was just an incredible campaign from Rick Santorum. But I'm curious as to why at the end do you think that he wasn't able to get over the hump and break through and wind up being the candidate? Was it the money? Was it the naked advertising from Romney? Why do you think it just didn't work out for him in the end?
Well, that's a great question, one that I'm sure will be analyzed, throughout history. I worked with Governor Huckabee in 2008, and it was a similar kind of campaign. It was, no one gave him a chance. No one thought he could get to where he was with no money, but it really was about the right message and the right messenger. But truly, in this day and age, you have to have money in order to run a successful presidential campaign, or any campaign for that matter. And you do need help from the establishment. And Rick didn't have it this time. He will, if he chooses to do it again, I would imagine he'll have certainly more of both next time. But it's a combination of all of those factors. You have to have the money, and the message, and the right person to deliver that message. And it just wasn't in the cards this time. And Rick gave it a great fight. It was a wonderful journey, a historic journey, one that he's certainly has every reason to hold his head high for all the hard work he did, starting out with a truck, a road map, and a few hamburgers riding across Iowa. He set himself up to be in a great position to really help the Republican Party and coalesce conservatives and really make an impact in this very critical election year.
All right, Alice, good to have you on. Thanks very much, and congratulations. I mean, it really was an improbable campaign, and one that will go down in history for sure. Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thanks, both. Have a great day.
You too.
Alice Stewart, National Press Secretary for Santorum.